Jasiri Network is a community of African diaspora professionals in the UK.
When you're in the West, you think this is it, right? Like there's no one else who can do what I do.
Yeah.
I've met so many good marketers, like the guys that have done the branding for this.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is world class.
A lot of startup founders are below the age of 30, don't have much corporate experience. They start startups because it's what other opportunity do I have? But then to get yourself from pre-seed and seed to Series A, you need to find product market fit.
Yeah.
Right? You need to go from experimenting to this is now an establishment, this is my business model, these are my customers, this is my growth model.
Abroad in the Western markets, you want unicorns, but on the African continent, you want rhinos. I thought that was so powerful because when you're building for Africa, you need people who understand Africa problems, African solutions. When I started Jasiri Network, the vision was simple: create a platform where African professionals, just like myself in the diaspora, could come together, share ideas, and support one another in building successful careers. Over time, this vision has grown into a movement, a community that celebrates the incredible talent, resilience, and ambition of African globally. Today, we come full circle, bringing that vision home to Kenya, where so many of our stories began.
Hello everyone and welcome to a special episode on the My Tech Story Africa podcast. Today we are at the Jasiri Network Summit, the first of its kind here at the JW Marriott in Nairobi. Today we will be discussing the role of the African diaspora professionals in fostering growth, community and innovation both abroad and back home. I'll give the opportunity to my friends here to introduce themselves and what they do before we get into the conversation of the day.
So my name is Michele Watiki and I am a co-founder and COO at Duck Analytics. So what we do at Duck is we essentially provide some of the biggest consumer brands across Africa with data on how well they're performing in supermarkets. So think of Carrefour, Naivas, Quickmart. We plug into their systems, get these insights, and then feed it back up the supply chain. So I'm actually, I wouldn't call myself a returner. I kind of grew up in the UK, went to school there. And then 6 months ago, I made the decision to move back home permanently to step into my role fully as COO of Duck. So for me, it's been quite a challenging experience being in an environment that I'm not used to and having to pick up a culture that I thought I knew, but it's very different when you actually live home as opposed to coming home every December and being at the bar all the time. But overall, it's been a phenomenal experience and I wouldn't actually envision myself being anywhere else.
I love that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
How am I
that is
supposed to go after
amazing.
that? Anyway, so my name is Nancy Masila. I'm the CEO and founder of Jasiri Network. It's as simple as that. I wanted the summit to be a bridge between our community in the UK and also what we're trying to do on the continent, and more specifically in Kenya and in Nairobi. Jasiri started last year in January, and here we are holding a summit in Kenya, in Nairobi.
Amazing.
Yeah.
By the way, we'll get a bit more into the summit, but
Yes.
phenomenal job that
Thank
you've
you.
put up here.
And thank you, phenomenal women who I have to follow as always. Unlike them, I mean, I'm a semi-entrepreneur. My day-to-day job, I'm global head of marketing for a big American enterprise solutions organization. I can't necessarily say the name, but it's in the brochures and all of that. So I work as their head of marketing for their GIS offerings. What that means is I look after the marketing and communications for their cloud, mainframe, and various IT related offerings. It's a pleasure to be here. I've met old friends, Michele, long time since I've seen her. Of course, Nancy, we know each other from London, and it's really a pleasure, and it's been a fantastic couple of hours and even 2 days, right? We were at the
Yeah.
pre-networking
It's such a
session
full
the other
circle
day.
moment for all of
Yeah.
us, and I feel like we've known each other across multiple
Exactly.
countries,
Exactly.
continents,
Yeah.
and just now being here all
Exactly.
together.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
feeling
it's a pleasure.
FOMO, feeling FOMO about this friendship.
You're
Now
part
you're
of
part
us.
of
You're
it
part of us now. Yeah.
Awesome, amazing. For
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
my name is Alice Kanjejo. I forgot to introduce myself. My
Yeah.
name is Alice Kanjejo, the founder and host of My Tech Story Africa. What we do is we highlight amazing tech professionals and organizations that are doing
Yeah, that's
exceptional
it.
work
Yeah.
in the tech space across the continent or of African descent. And very happy to be having this amazing panel joining me. And what do you guys think about the summit? I know you've said bits and bobs,
10 out
but
of
what has
10.
been your experience?
10 out of 10
Yeah,
so
yeah,
far.
yeah, yeah.
Summit.
Really
Yeah.
11 over 10.
I mean,
honestly.
it's 1,000 over 10. I mean, this right here is my baby.
That's your
I mean, it's no
baby.
longer my baby, actually. It used to be, but I feel like now it's all
Now it's your
grown
child.
up.
I mean,
It's
it's
like a
still a baby.
teenager
You
right
don't
now.
stop being a mom because your child becomes 20.
Yeah, but I'm super, super proud of
Yeah.
the milestone. This is such a huge milestone. Jasiri Network, as much as it's been a diaspora community, I'm Kenyan, a lot of our community members are Kenyans as well. And so it was really, really important for us to come back to our home country. And this is where it all began, born and raised here from East Lando, by the way. Don't let the London fool you. I'm from East Lando. I'm just from East Lando, from a small
Lando.
village in Kitui, rural Kitui, not even the town center. So it's everything for me. I've
Yeah.
enjoyed every process. There were moments, ups and downs of like planning.
Of course.
If I were to kind of compare what this has been, it's like running a marathon. So you're prepping, you're like, yes, I'm going to do the marathon. Oh, I'm ready. I'm
The
buying the shoes.
endorphins-
Oh my
the
God,
endorphins are
let's
kicking
go.
in,
My
yeah?
friends are saying, let's
Yes.
go. We're training. And then
Oh, yes.
as the days
Yeah.
come by and now you're running the marathon, you're like, oh my God, what
Yeah.
did I sign up myself
Yeah.
to? And then you keep running and you're like, well, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. Sometimes you're increasing the pace, sometimes you're decreasing the pace. But now having kind of like run all through, I'm like, maybe we need to do this again.
Absolutely.
It becomes
We
addictive.
need it. We need it.
Yeah. So,
That, and then, after today, it's just all going to be done. And then it's
Yeah.
like,
What am I
what
supposed
next?
to do
with my
life?
What are you doing with your life?
Yeah,
Exactly. But
that's
maybe you can also just let us know, like, what was the entire purpose of even this summit? I know there was the school of thought that there needs to be that connection between the African diaspora and the continent and investing back
Yeah.
in the continent. But I want to just hear from you and what your vision for this was.
you know what? For me, the Nairobi Summit, and more so for Jasiri Network, having kind of established ourselves in the UK, was I wanted the summit to be a bridge between our community in the UK and also what we're trying to do on the continent, and more specifically in Kenya and in Nairobi. So a bridge for professionals to connect, a bridge for also students to kind of learn from the professionals, a bridge for entrepreneurs both ways. So from the continent going out and also from like the UK abroad and coming in. And even when you're speaking to some of the attendees, they are from all various diaspora abroad,
Absolutely.
You have UK, which is like our majority because that's like our stronghold. But
Yeah.
then we had people coming in from like France, Germany, Asia, Dubai, I think somebody as well from America. So it's literally a bridge connecting both entrepreneurs, professionals, students, and also like startup now. And it's so crazy because all this started as a passion project.
It
or
always
like,
just starts with an idea, is what they
last
say.
year it was just a passion project I'm doing on a Saturday, and now it's a
It's
summit,
full-time.
it's a
It's a
community,
summit,
we're
yeah.
doing tech
Community.
ecosystem.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those
Website,
big words.
everything. I love it.
How did we get here? No, but it's so
Yeah.
essential for that to happen. I think a lot of people go abroad and what brain drain is what we refer to it,
Yeah.
and we do want to crave those opportunities back
Yeah.
home. And so,
Yeah.
what is the experience basically of you guys working in the UK and then now
Yeah.
maybe coming back home and that bridge that we're trying to
Yeah, I
bridge?
think I'll take that one, and I'm sure the ladies will have some contributions. But I've spent 30 years in the UK, right? I moved over there when I was about 6 years old. I've studied there, I've worked there, I've built friendships there, and so many other things. And what you find after a while is that things become monotonous. You can only work so much. You can only, see the same people for so long,
Yeah.
even though they're special to you. And your network in life and really in business and everywhere else in general you find that you need to expand your connections. And for me, that's what kind of drove me to move back. There are a number of other factors as well. You know, we were looking to expand into Africa at one point. Kenya was the chosen destination. That didn't work out for one or two reasons. But I think for me, it's been a real eye-opener, because when you're in the West, you think this is it. Right? Like there's no one else who can do what I do.
Yeah.
I've met so many good marketers, like the guys that have done the branding for this.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is world class. And,
This is world class.
And you know, the guy was telling me, look, we put this together, simple concept, and we were able to turn it into what we're seeing today. So
Wait until you see the content that we have prepared.
Exactly,
Mighty
right?
Story Africa as
Exactly,
well.
right? So the fact that, you know, it's about expanding your horizons.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I got to a point where I felt like, look, I've done everything that I could possibly do in the UK. I didn't necessarily have a business idea, but I had this yearning to really just expand my horizon, meet new people, and bloody hell, it's been such an amazing experience, because if you want coders, they're all here in Nairobi. If you want people that are interested in AI, there's a massive AI community, crypto community, tech community. So, you know, expanding my horizons is what has kind of led me to stick into Kenya.
Yeah.
And so far, so good. I'm loving it. And Jasiri is enabling those type of connections as well.
Yeah. Love that.
I agree. So I remember going to the first Jasiri event. I think it was September. I think it was like one of the most well-attended events. There were so many people there. And I remember connecting with a couple of people who actually helped me with my concept for Duck today. And I met them at the Jasiri event.
Wow.
And I met someone, I won't name them, not to embarrass them, but this person worked in the UK, but they had a tech startup in Kenya. So they were kind of doing a little bit of both. And as soon as I told him my idea, he was like, hey, let me plug you. Let me give you this connect. Let me help you think about your products. Let me help you think about your go-to-market strategy, etc.
And that's the other thing, actually. Kenyans are so willing to help
willing
and
to help.
support,
Yeah.
open doors.
So willing to
Absolutely.
help.
And it's so
the
right from what she
get-go,
said.
From
Yeah.
the get-go. Yesterday,
Off the
like I'm not sitting at a table and thinking I cannot talk to these
Yes.
people. I'm
Yes.
thinking- And anytime I'm speaking to someone, it's someone of substance and
Yeah.
it's valuable conversations.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Very well curated. For
I
sure.
think there's always a trade-off about going to the West, which is, yes, you might earn a bit more and the opportunity is better, but culturally and then also like just your personal life as well, as James said, like there's like one club in the whole of the UK and then you bump into like your mum and your uncles because everyone of all age groups goes there. And you're just wondering like, oh my gosh, I wish I could go out a bit more, meet more people, because who you meet socially, you don't know, that might become the next, you know, your next customer or your next investor. So those opportunities aren't necessarily there in the UK as you would find them in Kenya, especially if you are starting your own thing. And then also with corporate, I guess it's a cultural thing. I find a lot of my friends who have come abroad, whom, let's say they did university in the UK, then got a job, they struggle to fit in culturally. They call it cultural fit, right? As someone who's been not born there, but raised in the UK, I get it, because I see that every day. But I couldn't imagine being from somewhere else and coming in, because it's not just Africans that struggle, it's Europeans, French people, Germans, Americans, Australians. British culture is very...
Culture is culture.
Culture is
you know.
culture. It cuts across everywhere. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that's in every single corporate. So there's always that envision of, okay, I have a great job, but am I happy in this workplace? What's my well-being like? What's my mental health like? Am I motivated to go to work? And most times people are looking for something else. So I always tell them, don't be afraid to look back home. You know, if that was a happy place for you, you can still make it there. Don't think because it's home, it's hard because it's Kenya and I get paid less. No, you go and you make it work. You know?
You go and you make it work, you know. And leading up to my next question, what are some of the misconceptions that people have about, you know, working in the West, and, you know, that maybe opportunities are better there, maybe they are, but, you know, you've also said there's a trade-off, but what are some of the other things that you think?
I think I'll go fast on this one, and more so because having been born, raised, I schooled at the University of Nairobi. I mean, the only university in Kenya.
Let's not start that debate here.
and then I also, you know, I started my career at PwC Kenya right here, and then took a career break, and then, you know, got the opportunity to work with KPMG in London. I think the biggest misconception on our end probably, and I think it's a mindset thing, thinking that, oh, I'm Kenyan, maybe I'm not at the same level globally as somebody else who's in the UK. Let me tell you something, Alice. Let me tell you something.
Here she goes.
Kenyans are so good at what they do.
It's true.
Kenyans are so talented. Kenyans are so driven. Kenyans are so hardworking. I'm telling you, we are competitive as any other nationality across board, any industry. And I can tell you, through Jasiri Network, we have people across all industries in the UK. All industries. Name an industry, name a company, a global company that I won't tell you there's a Kenyan.
Yeah.
Everywhere, like it's been amazing, and that's even part of why Jasiri Network, really mattered to me, because I was like, there are these awesome people in this awesome organization doing amazing things, but back home we don't know about them. So as Kenyans, we're going out there into the world thinking we're not as competitive as, or thinking we are less, or thinking we have to add more. And there's this thing about, oh, you don't have a degree from the UK or from, the US. I didn't go to Harvard, I didn't go to Oxford.
I think there's
nothing less than. This university I went to, I mean, it has its own problems. But like, we are as good as any of the Oxbridges or any of the Ivy Leagues, and I will go to war fighting that battle.
Die on this hill.
I will go down that hill.
That's a hill we are all willing to die on.
And I think Kenyans, don't sell yourself short wherever you go. Whether be it, you're doing remote work, or whether you're kind of like relocating permanently, make sure you know your worth, and trust me, you're worth a lot. And also that other thing about the whole brain drain thing, it was a very interesting, there's a summit I went to for the London School of Economics, and there was a Professor Gilbrill, I think, and he was kind of trying to break down the whole concept of brain drain, where it came from, the history behind it, and it started during those what they call flights, and people kind of like taking young Africans into like either UK or US, getting education, and then bring them back to take over from kind of like what was the colonial rule at the time. But in 2024, when we're talking about brain drain, I think we need to kind of dig deeper and have other more complex layered conversations around it, because if you start looking around, for example, Kenya, the rate of unemployment, how many people are leaving university and they don't have employment? And you're talking about brain drain. So what is being drained? We have an excess of talent. And also just, it's not a one way, like you can see with Michele and James. It's two-way. There are people going, there are people coming back, the exchange of ideas. And even if you're going, you can go for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, come back. So it's, but anyway, that's a story for another day.
I'll add to that. And I think you touched on something that was really important, because, the fact that Kenyans see themselves as less always hinders them to do better when they look for opportunities. I'll tell you, there's a lady who I've met in here who works for London Stock Exchange Group. Anita.
Yes.
There's another person I met who works for, is it TFL?
Yes,
these are big organizations.
I'm telling you, anytime I'm just saying hi to someone, I ask what they do, it's like,
and they're really cool and down to earth.
I know, they're so humble.
And these are just people who believe in themselves.
That's the difference.
And let's not get it twisted. Yes, there's more opportunities in the West because they've built their ecosystem to be able to sustain opportunities generation after generation. But that doesn't stop the Kenyans that are here in Kenya or anywhere else in Africa to be the people that build that ecosystem of opportunities. We've got startups like Duck, we've got Jasiri Network. These are employers who can give people opportunities to do more and more and more things. We can't, gone are the days where we have to rely on the government to create jobs. We have to rely on, senior people, this government, right? Let's say less. Gone are those days. Really, people need to be embracing and taking the opportunities, grab it by the balls or the horns, let's say, and really, go for it and believe in yourself.
There's something about conviction that takes you places that you could never even imagine. Just that self-belief
Manifesting
is what, and just manifesting and believing in what you're saying takes you so far. And I think, like you said, not just Kenyans but Africans in general are so hardworking. And I mean, a lot of it also comes from the struggle that we do go through growing up here, but it primes you. It means that you're even better equipped. Let me not say better, but
you're more resilient.
You're more resilient. You have more. You've gone to 844 here.
You survived University of Nairobi.
You will survive. You will survive. No, I just want to bring in just another conversation based on the panel discussion that you were moderating. Earlier, you guys were speaking about how startups sometimes struggle to pass the seed funding stage, and especially African founders. And there's, I don't know if it's a myth or if it's reality, or the statistics show that yes, a lot of startups do fail at a certain stage. Is it because people are, should you be scared, or rather, I'm trying to address the fear that people have in actually Africans investing in Africans. A lot of investments come from, again, the West, and those are the people who are investing, and we're trying to get into a culture of investing more in Africans, but there's a trust element that I feel that people sometimes struggle with. You hear stories of founders who have burnt through their money, or they're just not, doing the books right when they get the funding. So I want to get your thoughts on that. Maybe one of you.
I think I'll comment on it very briefly, and then the founder here can tell us about her experience on pre-seed and seed funding. I think that we have there's a problem just of general trust amongst Africans. There's a problem of, if I come to you and you're an investor and I'm partnered with a white guy or someone who is not of African descent, that you perhaps will feel more trusting in our idea and our, opportunity that we're trying to create. And I think that needs to go, and it's going with this generation. I'm a bit older than all of you, but I'll call myself this generation. That is disappearing and that's fizzling out. Why? Because people are seeing that they're on their own, right? You want to build something, you can't get help, there's no grants, or they're not easily accessible unless you know someone, within the system. So I'd say that, that lack of trust is probably what's hindering us. The second thing is really the infrastructure. It's not so easy for someone to make a $6 million investment in Africa and then I can't chase you on it, right? I don't know what your address is. I don't know what your postcode is. I don't know your driving license number is not attached to you. So there's so much in terms of infrastructure that is still immature, which for me gives me hope, because that's only a matter of time before all of that gets corrected. In America, you set up your company, it's attached to your address is attached to your car is attached to your credit cards and your banking and etc. So that will improve, I'm sure. And will make investments a little bit easy as well. But let's hear from Duck.
Well, before Michele kind of takes on the question, I actually did agree on that topic around infrastructure, and that's actually the biggest struggle I think we have, because in some of these other Western markets, the infrastructure is really there. There's a lot of support as well, and the support is available to everybody, and people know where they can get the support. And as James has mentioned, like there's so many other things missing from within our continent in Africa. But I think another thing we need to note is we are adopting westernized systems and applying them onto the African context.
Cultures,
yet it doesn't really fit. So if you're talking about like the West, they have like postcodes, your home address, but here we don't have postcodes per se. But we have we know where people go. We know where people live. We have chamas. So can we tap into like our own
way of doing
things? How we do business.
I hope someone who's a founder is listening.
Dropping gems, guys.
I think we need to make sure whatever we are picking from the West works for us in our own context. So okay, fine, you can't attach a postcode to somebody, but you know about their community, like where they go to church, their chief, there's certain things, and I think that's also another thing around credit as well.
Yeah, that's
So
a big
Africa,
thing.
like getting credits is a little bit difficult because of some of those markers. So I think we need to find a solution for the African context.
Yeah.
But again, Michelle might have more.
Yeah,
Very
Michelle, I'll be
mighty.
interested to know whether you have gone through
Let me just spill the
pre-seed.
tea. No.
Have you gone through pre-seed? Have you done your? Are
I
you
think
still?
I tend
step
to.
behind?
I'm a very nosy person, right?
Yeah.
Before I started Duck, I was doing my research into all the big startups, and at the time there were a couple of huge startups I won't name, but they were going through they were just reducing the operations or they were shutting down, and there was so much scrutiny from other Africans, other African organizations, other African podcasts, newsletters, etc. And it's always, you had this much money, how did you burn through that? How did you burn through that, etc. And when I first started, I was just like, damn, that's a lot of money. Like, you raised how many millions? And then now you're telling me you have nothing? What did you buy? But then when I became a founder, I was like, oh, okay.
I get
Okay,
it.
now I see. So there's two facets of this. The first is founder market fit, which most people don't like talking about.
Yeah.
Is that founder right for this problem?
For the problem, yeah.
Do they have the experience needed? Most people who become successful founders in the US and the UK or Europe, they worked in corporate.
Yeah.
They spent 10 to 15 years in stellar
Building the skill.
organizations learning how to butter and bread budgets, which are way more than fundraising rounds. I held a budget that's way more than what I'm fundraising right now. And I was a junior engineer at Rolls-Royce, right? Meaning a lot of startup founders are below the age of 30, don't have much corporate experience. They start startups because it's what other opportunity do I have? But then to get yourself from pre-seed and seed to Series A, you need to find product market fit.
Yeah.
Right? You need to go from experimenting to this is now an establishment, this is my business model, these are my customers, this is my growth model. And if I've taken VC money, I need to do that like yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? But they're very young, they're very immature, and it's not their fault that they don't have that experience. So chances are is that they're going to make bad financial decisions. They're not going to obviously spend all their money on a holiday, right? But they might hire wrong. Hire one wrong person, you know the difference when you're trying to pay your salary, right? Or they might build a product that nobody wants, then they have to keep pivoting, but then you run out of money in that process. And right now, dev salaries are $60,000 in Nairobi. Why? Because now you have Google here, you have Microsoft here, they're driving up the prices.
There's remote work.
There's remote working. So you can imagine if one dev is 60,000, you can see how $1 million can go by very quickly without you having found a strategy that works, that makes money. Right? So I think the population itself is still very young. Founders are young. The average founder that becomes a millionaire in the US, the UK is 40. But we don't have that yet because we've only just started the ecosystem in the past, 10, 15 years?
True.
And then the second is also product market fit, which is about 90% of startups statistically will fail, right?
Yeah.
The difference between them failing here and them failing abroad is abroad it's celebrated. You know, VCs are like, you're a second time founder, take more money. Because you failed something, which means you must have learned something, which means the second time you do it, you're gonna get further. Maybe you tank at pre-seed, the next startup seed, the next startup Series A, before then you end up with a unicorn, right? It's very, very rare your first idea takes you all the way up to unicorn. You have to reiterate. But then it's like, okay, what happens during those failures? Is it an ecosystem that encourages you, that tells you to get up, try again, or is it one that kind of drags you down? Then they don't want to invest.
There's an element of it dragging you down, right? The media especially. You always hear this company has been shut down immediately. This startup immediately.
I was having lunch with someone from Twiga. Twiga is a massive, I
Huge.
think, logistics company, hugely innovative. And all you see about them on the news is that, they're cost restructuring and reducing headcount. And all of
But they
this.
push the needle.
Which
Which means the next train of food will not start from scratch. They will start from a position of someone else made that mistake, a costly mistake. Now I can build on from it.
Yeah. So as an individual, as an organization, like failure should not be seen as something that, you know,
Absolutely.
it's like it's something that you tried and tested. It's like, okay, great, we failed, on to the next one. It's not like a
But I
discouraging
think also it's a
thing.
cultural thing, and it's not just also in the tech startup ecosystem. It also kind of goes into even corporate as well. I felt there's a time I used to be really scared of failure. Now I'm like, I failed, fine, let's move on.
Move on.
let's
fail
pivot.
fast, fail
Exactly.
forward.
Thank you.
Exactly, because the other thing is you can be so scared of failure, it stalls you,
It
or
does.
you kind of just sit in this space of I don't want to try because I'm scared of failing. And that does not profit anybody. It doesn't do anybody justice.
It's like
And failure could be subjective, right? Because like failure, maybe the grand scheme of things is like, oh, you burnt through money, but like you said, like you've learned a lot of things, you've made connections that are meaningful. Maybe you got a connection to a corporate job.
That's more than any money.
Like I don't see you failing completely 100% if you've bet on yourself and tried to take the next step. All right, as we almost wrap up, just the last question that I have is, I guess, how do you guys think that the diaspora can create more, can help enhance creating more opportunities here, economically, financially, etc.?
I think I have two thoughts around it. One, it's not just the diaspora who needs to solve this issue. Because sometimes people think of the diaspora and they think this group of people there, they have unlimited resources. We are also struggling, my friend. But I feel like it's, again, that connection and that bridge and learning from each other. There's so much to kind of borrow from both ends. And the transfer could either through be resources, financial, knowledge, experience. Like there's so many things I feel we could kind of borrow through each other. And I liked what Enos Westwood, the country director for the UK Kenyan Tech Hub, said. Is like abroad in the Western markets, you want unicorns, but on the African continent you want rhinos. I thought that was so powerful because when you're building for Africa, you need people who understand Africa problems, African solutions. I loved it, and I think that's what we need. We need the diaspora kind of, even if it's VC money coming from the Western, we need somebody somewhere that say, actually, this solution, this would never work in Kenya, or this would never work in Tanzania, or this would never work in Uganda. And you save everybody money, right? So I think those exchange of resources, knowledge, being advocates out there, wherever you're in, whichever organization, if you're working for whatever organization, VC, finance, marketing, whatever, having people from the continent in those conversations, in those rooms, I think elevates whatever is happening. And at the very end, it makes whatever is coming here from the Western market, either through the diaspora or any other organization or parties, even better for the African market.
Love that response.
I think I've taken a lot from this, and there's three, if you look on the stage, there's three kind of keywords that they've written on there: connect, learn, and inspire. And I think a lot of us should take that back, because when we're in the West or when we're here, it's very easy just to kind of take the back road, not want to lead, just, kind of, not be very timid, let's say.
Yeah.
But the key thing I think people should take away from this is, stick your hand up, stick your neck out, take the risk, inspire people. You never know what could happen.
Move on,
Move on. Exactly. So that's really what I take away from today. Just put your neck out there. The things will happen once you're taking active, actions towards your goal.
Absolutely.
I would say spend time on the continent. Like, you'd be surprised how quickly Nairobi has changed since just the pandemic. The Nairobi that you left is not the Nairobi you find today. It looks different, it feels different, business is done different. And if you really want to make an impact, not just for others, but even for yourself, let's say invest. Like, how many horror stories do we hear of people investing back home? And they're in the UK, and then they struggle to manage it. The house has been building for 10 years. It's not getting there. The business that you gave to your cousin, and then all of a sudden money's missing, blah, blah, blah. And I think I always tell people this, like, you can't do things remotely. You have to just immerse yourself. So many of my colleagues in the UK used to take like sabbaticals and go traveling around Europe. I was going to take a sabbatical until I decided to hand in my notice, right? Take some time off, 3 months, 4 months from work. Come home, see what's happening. Even Jasiri's been amazing because it's in December when most people travel. So whilst I'm partying and living my best life, I can actually come to a conference and talk about other things. Conferences, work opportunities. So I'm not just here
not
for
everyday enjoyment.
I'm getting an ROI on my plane ticket. It's not just a plane ticket to just, and usually,
have a lunch.
do you know what I mean? Speak to someone like-minded, someone in your same industry, in a different setting. And then you'll be like, oh, maybe I can do this, maybe I can try that. But actually being here on the ground, I think, is definitely so important. And what beats better than just being here in Kenya?
I do want to add on to that, and I think you're the perfect example, which is if you're planning on coming to the African continent to invest, to start businesses, to even a career as well, wherever you are, try and connect with other Africans.
Oh, yeah.
The way you did with Jasiri, like you came
Yeah, that
and you
was
really
good.
immersed yourself with the community, you connected with people, asking all the right questions, and then now you flew into Kenya. So that's a perfect way, even before somebody commits themselves with a
Absolutely.
plane ticket.
Sample it, yeah.
Yeah, like just
Yeah, I went to
talk
Kenya.
with-
I went to
talk with
Jasiri in
people.
September.
Yeah,
I went to Kenya for 2 months in December.
Yeah, and you're already from the networks already.
I think I stretched out my annual leave.
Yeah.
I even took unpaid leave.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
I held one event.
That's
Yeah.
belief.
Literally, I was like, I told my
There's
manager,
something.
yo, don't look for me.
Yeah.
And then I literally spent 2 months in Kenya, literally going out, being frantic, just talking to customers, blah, 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 blah. And then I moved 6 months in July. But it
Wow.
wasn't until I took that 2 months to be like, actually, I found myself a gym.
Wow.
I was looking for houses. I was like, okay, I can see myself actually living
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
investing here,
Yeah.
putting money here. Because it's not just Kenya once in December.
Yeah.
It's now, this is
your daily
home.
life.
This
Yeah,
can
yeah,
be
yeah,
my
this is
daily
your
life.
daily life.
This can
Not
be
too
my
bad.
business. Actually. And even if it wasn't, it brings you closer to home. It's not just
Yeah.
Kenya's 6,000 miles away. I only think about it once a year.
Yeah.
It's just something, if you're spending pounds in Kenya, you want to know where your money's going.
Exactly.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I
Be
agree.
hands-on with your investments.
Yeah.
Hands-on with the investments. No,
Yeah.
I absolutely love that, and we need more people and more platforms like yours. And I think you inspiring more people to have these conversations is absolutely amazing. So, yeah, thank you guys for joining me onto this conversation.
And thanks to you as well.
Keep telling the
Great job,
story.
yeah.
It's been amazing, and
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy the rest of your event. I know we've taken up a bit of your time, but it
Thank
was
you.
necessary. Now we need to go back and
No, thank
continue
you. Thank you
Amazing.
so
connecting
much.
and networking.
Thank you.
Amazing. Remember to subscribe. Please check out the Jasiri Network. We'll leave all the necessary links below. And our lovely guests here as well, should they share their socials or any connections that you want to make with them, then we'll also leave their details in the description from wherever you're listening from. This is My Tech Story Africa. Make sure that you subscribe from wherever you're listening from once again. And I shall see you in the next one. Bye.